Hello and welcome. I'm so glad you've joined me tonight. For a little while, we can set the world aside. The noise, the worries, the endless lists of tasks, and simply rest. Tonight, we will travel together along one of the most remarkable pathways the world has ever known, the Silk Route. A network of roads stretching over 7,000 kilometers through deserts, mountains, and cities, linking cultures, trade, and knowledge across continents. Softly, imagine the city of Chang'an, modern-day Xi'an, capital of the Tang Dynasty. Around the year 700 CE, one of the largest cities in the world, home to over 1 million people, bustling, yet calm under the soft morning light. Stone walls rise before you, over 12 meters high, encircling the city, watchtowers at intervals, guarding the gates, rooftops catching the first sunlight, the city alive, yet serene. Softly, imagine the sound of morning bells from distant temples, monks chanting quietly, lanterns swinging in a gentle breeze, shadows flickering across cobblestone streets. Merchants begin to set up their stalls, silks dyed crimson, gold, and soft ivory, intricate jade carvings, ceramics glazed in turquoise and cobalt, spices filling the air, star anise, saffron, cinnamon, and clove, exotic perfumes from the south. Softly, imagine touching a folded silk, feeling its fine weave smooth, almost liquid under your fingers, delicate patterns shimmering in soft light, patient, mesmerizing. Tea houses open, steam curling from clay cups, the scent of oolong and jasmine drifting gently, soft murmurs of conversation. Softly, imagine kneeling briefly in a small shrine, incense rising, flickering candlelight warming your face, quiet prayers whispered, centuries of devotion, gentle, hypnotic. Outside the city gates, a caravan prepares to depart, camels kneeling patiently, humps swaying softly as loads of silk, jade, spices, paper scrolls, and bronze mirrors are secured. Softly, imagine adjusting a strap, feeling the weight shift, the steady rhythm forming, calm, measured, patient. We begin our journey, step by step, mile by mile, leaving Chang'an behind. The city walls recede, fading into the soft haze of morning. Softly, hear the distant bell of a temple, the life of the city continuing without you, while you drift gently onward. The Wei River glimmers nearby, flowing through fertile plains, irrigating fields of wheat, millet, and rice. Softly, imagine dipping your hands into the cool water, feeling it slip between your fingers, tracing the path travelers have followed for centuries, patient, eternal, guiding. The plains stretch endlessly, golden fields swaying in the breeze, wildflowers blooming, chrysanthemums, peonies, and sweet osmanthus, bees drifting lazily, soft hums blending with the wind. Softly, imagine bending down, brushing your fingers over petals, inhaling their subtle fragrance, feeling weightless, serene, calm. Birds travel the skies, red-crowned cranes gliding gracefully, magpies darting through groves, their calls soft and distant. Small mammals peek from burrows, hares bounding lightly, foxes watching silently, each life deliberate, aligned, hypnotic, soft. Villages appear, timber and clay homes, smoke curling lazily from chimneys, children laughing softly. Softly, imagine a farmer sowing seeds, neat rows of rice bending in the breeze, millet stalks bowing, chickens pecking quietly, ducks drifting on ponds, centuries-old patterns continuing, patient, calm. Caravans move steadily, camels' hoofs pressing lightly into dirt tracks, bells jingling softly, guides pointing to hidden springs, safe paths, resting spots. Softly, imagine walking beside them, steps matching their rhythm, calm, measured, every movement deliberate, deeper into peace, deeper into rest. Gentle hills rise along the horizon, dotted with pine, cypress, and birch, soft shadows stretching across valleys. Softly, imagine sitting beneath a pine, feeling its rough bark, inhaling resin-scented air, wind brushing your face, patient, serene, hypnotic. At night, the sky opens, soft indigo, stars scattered across the heavens. Orion rises slowly, the Pleiades cluster shimmering faintly, guiding travelers for centuries. Soft, eternal, hypnotic, calm. Softly, imagine tracing the stars with your eyes, feeling the rhythm of time, of centuries, of silk route travelers stepping where you step, patient, deliberate, aligned. The caravan rests, camels kneeling, fires flickering, merchants preparing warm barley porridge, flatbread, and dried fruits. Softly, imagine lying back, weightless, your body aligned with the rhythm of the journey, step by step, mile by mile, calm, into dreams, into sleep. Chang'an has faded behind. The silk route stretches ahead, deserts, mountains, and rivers waiting, stories, trade, and knowledge moving silently across the world. Softly, imagine tracing every footprint, every wheel mark, aligned with centuries of human endeavor, softly, gently, into calm, into sleep, into dreams. Softly, imagine leaving the bustling streets of Chang'an behind. The city walls recede, temples and lanterns fade into a soft haze. Step by step, mile by mile, the caravan follows the ancient Han Dynasty trade routes, heading northwest, patient, calm, deliberate, hypnotic. The plains stretch before you, golden wheat fields swaying gently, rivers glinting in the soft sunlight. Softly, imagine feeling the dew on your feet, the grass brushing lightly against your skin, distant herons rising from riverbanks, wings brushing the sky, patient, serene, hypnotic. The caravan moves steadily, Bactrian camels kneeling, rising. Their humps swaying, loads of silk, jade, paper scrolls, bronze mirrors, spices, and medicinal herbs balanced carefully. Softly, imagine adjusting a strap, feeling the rhythm of the journey. Step by step, mile by mile, the earth beneath soft, familiar, eternal. The Wei and Tao rivers guide the way, soft currents reflecting the early morning light, their waters carrying stories of civilizations past. Softly, imagine dipping your hand into the cool flow, tracing the path that travelers have followed for centuries, patient, deliberate, mesmerizing. Along the way, small villages appear, homes built of timber and clay, smoke curling lazily from chimneys, children laughing softly. Softly, imagine farmers sowing millet and barley, rice paddies shimmering in the sun, chickens pecking quietly, ducks drifting on small ponds, centuries-old rhythms continuing, hypnotic, serene. The Gansu corridor begins to rise, a narrow corridor between the Chilean mountains to the south and the Hushy mountains to the north. A lifeline through deserts, soft. Imagine hills rising slowly, shadows stretching across valleys, patient, eternal. Along the corridor, oasis towns dot the landscape, Wuwei, Zhangye, Jiaguan, each a critical hub for traders, caravanserais providing shade and water for travelers, soft. Imagine resting under stone arches, camels kneeling near wells, the scent of dates, grapes, and apricots drifting softly, hypnotic, calming. The terrain becomes more arid, desert sands shimmer under the midday sun, the Gobi Desert stretching beyond the horizon. Softly, imagine wind brushing across your face, the soft whisper of grains of sand, the caravan moving slowly, each step measured, deliberate, patient, aligned with centuries of human endeavor. Flora and fauna adapt to the harsh environment. Hardy reeds and tamarisks near oases, wild onagers and gazelles bounding across plains, desert foxes moving quietly among sparse shrubs, soft. Imagine noticing every movement, life persisting against all odds, hypnotic, serene. Caravans stop at Dunhuang, the first major oasis city. Soft walls rising from the sands, rivers and canals sustaining gardens and fields. Softly, imagine bustling markets, silk, jade, glass, spices, paper scrolls, medicinal herbs, merchants haggling gently. The sound of bells and the hum of conversation, soft, mesmerizing, eternal. Dunhuang is also home to the Mojo caves, carved into cliffs, Buddhist murals and manuscripts dating back to the 4th century CE. Softly, imagine walking along the cliffs, touching cool stone, seeing depictions of monks, bodhisattvas, and travelers, manuscripts preserved for centuries, wisdom carried silently westward, patient, calm, hypnotic. The caravan moves carefully along desert tracks, sand shifting under camel hoofs, soft. Imagine adjusting packs, feeling the rhythm, step by step, mile by mile, aligned with centuries of travelers who have crossed this harsh yet beautiful land. At night, stars scatter across the sky. The Orion constellation rises, the Pleiades cluster shimmering faintly, guiding travelers through the desert. Softly, imagine lying beneath the night sky, the warm glow of fires flickering softly, camels kneeling, the distant sound of the wind in dunes, patient, eternal, hypnotic. Meals are simple yet nourishing, flatbread, dried fruits, roasted millet soft. Imagine tasting the flavors carried along trade routes for centuries, sustaining traders and animals alike, slow, deliberate, gentle. The desert stretches ahead, dunes and oases, cliffs and riverbeds, the silk route unfolding westward, carrying goods, culture, ideas, patient, persistent, eternal. Softly, imagine tracing every footprint, every wheel mark, the rhythm of the journey, aligned with centuries of history, step by step, mile by mile, into calm, into rest, into dreams, into sleep. Softly, imagine leaving the oasis city of Dunhuang behind. The desert stretches before you, golden dunes rising and falling, winds whispering softly, grains of sand shifting with gentle patience. The caravan moving steadily, step by step, mile by mile, slow, deliberate, hypnotic. The southern route skirts the vast Taklamakan Desert, one of the largest sandy deserts on Earth, spanning over 1,000 kilometers. Softly, imagine the desert air, dry, shimmering heat during the day, cold, crystalline nights, the soft rustle of sand under camel hoofs, a living ocean of shifting dunes, patient, eternal, hypnotic. Camels kneel and rise, Bactrian camels, adapted for desert travel, carrying silk, spices, jade, paper scrolls, glassware, and medicinal herbs. Softly, imagine adjusting packs, feeling the rhythm, the gentle sway of the caravan. Step by step, mile by mile, each movement deliberate, aligned with centuries of trade. Oasis towns appear like mirages, soft green clusters among the golden sands. Turpan rises first, the city built in a depression surrounded by mountains, one of the hottest inhabited places on Earth. Daytime temperatures often exceeding 45 degrees C, 113 degrees Fahrenheit. Vineyards and melon fields flourishing thanks to Kara's irrigation systems. Underground channels transporting mountain water silently. Patient, ingenious, mesmerizing. Softly, imagine walking among vineyards, tasting sweet Turpan grapes, fragrant melons, fragrant apricots and walnuts, the result of centuries of careful agriculture. Human ingenuity harmonizing with harsh nature, hypnotic, serene. Local traders prepare goods, silk dyed in bright reds and blues, jade carvings, fragrant spices from India, dried fruits from oasis gardens, small pots of herbal medicine. Softly, imagine the smell of saffron, cinnamon, and star anise blending with the warm desert air. Traders haggling gently, camels kneeling patiently, rhythmic, calming, hypnotic. The caravan moves westward, hills rise, mountains shadowing the path, guides leading through narrow passes, marking safe routes, avoiding treacherous dunes, patient knowledge passed down for generations. Softly, imagine walking carefully beside a camel, feeling the soft sway, hearing the distant cry of a desert fox, the rustle of desert hares, each creature moving deliberately, aligned with the rhythm of survival, hypnotic, serene. The caravan reaches Khotan, famed for jade, soft, green nephrite mined in nearby mountains for centuries. Softly, imagine traders carefully inspecting jade, carving it into figurines and jewelry. Pieces traveling westward across the silk route, a material as treasured as silk itself, patient, eternal, mesmerizing. Khotan is also known for its silk production, one of the earliest centers outside eastern China. Mulberry trees lining fields, silkworms feeding on their leaves. Softly, imagine gently touching a cocoon, feeling its soft texture, realizing that the silk you see on the caravan has been nurtured, harvested, and woven carefully, step by step, century by century, hypnotic, calm. The desert path is challenging, soft sand, sudden windstorms, mirages shimmering in the heat. Softly, imagine the guides pointing out safe passes, the caravan moving slowly, camels kneeling to rest, drinking from hidden wells, humanity and nature coexisting in careful rhythm, hypnotic, serene. Flora and fauna along the southern Taklamakan edge include hardy tamarisk, wild reed, and desert poplar. Softly, imagine desert hares, onagers, foxes, and larks moving quietly, predators like eagles soaring above. Each life adapted perfectly to survive the harsh environment, patient, deliberate, mesmerizing. The night sky is vast and clear, stars scattered across the heavens, Orion, the Pleiades, and Cassiopeia guiding caravans for centuries. Softly, imagine lying beneath the stars, feeling the soft warmth of a campfire, camels kneeling, the soft hum of conversation, the gentle whisper of the desert wind, calm, infinite, hypnotic, serene. Meals sustain the travelers, flatbread, dried fruits, roasted millet, goat cheese, soft. Imagine the flavors. Each bite a connection to centuries of caravan life. Grounding, patient, hypnotic, serene. The caravan continues westward, dunes and oasis towns fading slowly. The southern Taklamakan revealing its hidden rivers, mountains, and secrets. Softly, imagine tracing every step, every camel hoofprint, aligned with thousands of years of trade, culture, and human perseverance. Step by step, mile by mile, into calm, into rest, into dreams, into sleep. Softly, imagine leaving Khotan behind. The oasis recedes, palm trees and mulberry groves fading into the warm desert haze. Step by step, mile by mile, camels kneeling, rising, each movement deliberate, rhythmic, hypnotic, serene. The southern edge of the Taklamakan desert stretches ahead, soft golden dunes rolling endlessly, the sun shimmering on the sands. Softly, imagine the wind brushing your face, the soft whisper of sand against camel hoofs, mirages flickering in the distance, patient, eternal, mesmerizing. The caravan follows ancient tracks, trails worn into the desert over centuries, passing scattered tamarisk and reed thickets, hidden wells providing life-saving water. Softly, imagine the guides pointing to oases, knowledge passed down for generations. Safe routes marked subtly in the sand, patient wisdom, hypnotic calm. The journey rises gradually, approaching the Karakoram and Pamir mountain foothills. Softly, imagine snow-capped peaks appearing in the distance, cold wind brushing against your skin. The first sight of glaciers feeding hidden rivers, mountains shaping the path, patient, eternal, mesmerizing. Along the caravan path, hardy flora emerges, wild tamarisk, desert poplar, and resilient grasses. Softly, notice onagers and gazelles bounding lightly, desert foxes slipping silently between shrubs, golden eagles and steppe falcons circling high above, each life perfectly adapted to the desert and mountain edge, patient, deliberate, hypnotic. The caravan arrives at Yarkand, an oasis town with bustling markets. Softly, imagine merchants arranging silk, jade, spices, ceramics, paper scrolls, and bronze mirrors. The aroma of saffron, cinnamon, and cloves blending with the warm, dry desert air, soft, patient, mesmerizing. Yarkand is also a cultural crossroads. Buddhist, Zoroastrian, and early Islamic influences intertwining. Softly, imagine monks quietly copying manuscripts in shaded courtyards, scholars discussing astronomy and medicine, artisans carving jade, weaving silk, and shaping intricate ceramics. Knowledge traveling west with every step of the caravan, hypnotic, serene. Further west, the caravan crosses into Kashgar, a major hub on the Western Silk Route. Softly, imagine the city walls rising slowly, streets lined with bazaars, merchants calling softly, trading silk from China, jade from Khotan, spices from India, glassware from Persia, and gold coins from distant empires, patient, eternal, mesmerizing. The Karakoram Pass looms ahead, a challenging route for caravans. Softly, imagine camels kneeling at the base of the mountains, guides checking packs, adjusting straps, marking the safest paths through rocky passes. Knowledge accumulated over centuries, patient, deliberate, hypnotic. Local agriculture is visible along river valleys. Grapes, melons, apricots, walnuts, vineyards stretching toward the horizon. Mulberry trees feeding silkworms. Softly, imagine tasting the sweetness of a freshly picked grape, the subtle aroma of ripe apricots, the soft crunch of walnuts, flavors carrying centuries of cultivation, patient, gentle, hypnotic. Desert storms occasionally sweep across the plains, sand swirling softly around the caravan. Softly, imagine camels bracing, travelers adjusting robes and packs, the desert wind shaping life and rhythm, patient, eternal, mesmerizing. The night sky unfolds, Orion, Pleiades, and Cassiopeia shimmering brightly, guiding travelers for centuries. Softly, imagine lying beneath the stars, the gentle glow of campfires flickering softly, camels kneeling quietly, distant voices murmuring, soft wind whispering across dunes and riverbeds, hypnotic, serene, calming. Meals sustain both humans and animals, flatbread, dried fruits, roasted millet, goat cheese, fresh dates. Softly, imagine tasting each bite, feeling it warm your body, each morsel connecting you to centuries of trade and caravan life. Step by step, mile by mile, calm, deliberate, infinite. The western edge of the Taklamakan is approaching. The desert begins to fade into fertile river valleys. The mountains stretching south toward the Karakoram and west toward Central Asia proper. Softly, imagine tracing the caravan's path, footprints, wool marks, and camel hooves aligned with centuries of travelers. Knowledge, culture, trade, and ideas flowing silently across the landscape, patient, eternal, hypnotic, drifting, floating, into calm, into rest, into dreams, into sleep. Softly, imagine leaving the bustling oasis of Kashgar behind. The city walls fade slowly, camels kneeling, rising, hooves pressing lightly into the soft earth, each step deliberate, rhythmic, hypnotic, serene. The caravan enters the Fergana Valley, a fertile crescent in Central Asia, stretching between the Tian Shan Mountains to the north and the Pamir Mountains to the south, rivers shimmering in the soft sunlight, irrigation channels carrying water for wheat, barley, grapes, and cotton soft. Imagine stepping through the fields, the sun warming your skin, wind brushing gently across vineyards and orchards, patient, eternal, mesmerizing. The valley is alive, soft. Imagine farmers tending furrows, women carrying water in clay jars, children chasing each other along narrow paths, sheep grazing in the fields, the hum of bees among wildflowers, centuries of human life unfolding quietly, hypnotic, serene. Camels kneel near riverbanks, loads of silk, jade, spices, medicinal herbs, and paper scrolls balanced carefully. Guides pointing towards safe paths, warning of sudden rainstorms or flooding rivers. Softly, imagine adjusting a strap, feeling the sway, the rhythm forming, step by step, mile by mile, each movement deliberate, aligned with centuries of trade. The caravan moves toward Samarkand, one of the most famous cities along the Silk Route, founded around 700 BCE, flourishing under the Sogdian merchants, crossroads of culture, art, and science. Softly, imagine the city rising in the distance, majestic walls, bustling bazaars, domed mosques, and tilework glinting in the sunlight. Traders from China, India, Persia, and Byzantium exchanging goods and ideas, hypnotic, mesmerizing, serene. Samarkand's markets overflow with treasures, soft. Imagine touching silk, jade, glassware, spices, papyrus, and gold coins, hearing merchants call out gently, bargaining softly. Each item carrying stories from distant lands, patient, eternal, hypnotic. Artisans work quietly in shaded courtyards, soft. Imagine watching a goldsmith shaping intricate patterns, a potter molding clay into vessels, scholars copying manuscripts, astronomers mapping the stars, physicians preparing herbal remedies, knowledge flowing westward with each step of the caravan, soft, mesmerizing, hypnotic. The caravan continues toward Bokhara, another great hub. Softly, imagine walking along cobbled streets, mud brick houses rising on either side of markets overflowing with spices, silk, and glassware, fountains bubbling softly, scholars discussing astronomy and medicine, craftsmen carving jade and shaping ceramics. The air alive with centuries of human knowledge and culture, patient, gentle, hypnotic. The region's geography is fertile yet challenging. Rivers meandering through plains, mountains to the north and south. Softly, imagine deer moving quietly through the valleys, foxes and hares slipping silently among the reeds, steppe eagles soaring above, life perfectly adapted to the land, patient, deliberate, serene. Meals along the route sustain the caravan. Soft. Imagine tasting flatbread, roasted millet, dried apricots, pomegranates, and goat cheese, flavors connecting you to centuries of caravan life. Grounding, hypnotic, patient. The sun sets over the plains, golden light glinting off distant river channels. Camels kneeling near oasis towns, fires flickering softly. Softly, imagine lying beneath the stars, the Milky Way stretching across the night sky, Orion, the Pleiades and Cassiopeia shimmering faintly, guiding caravans through the plains, patient, eternal, hypnotic, calm. The caravan rests, camels kneeling, merchants preparing for the next day's journey. The Silk Route continuing westward. Softly, imagine tracing every footprint, every camel hoofprint, aligned with thousands of years of trade, culture, and human ingenuity. Step by step, mile by mile, into calm, into rest, into dreams, into sleep. Softly, imagine leaving the bustling streets of Bokhara behind. The city walls recede slowly, minarets and fountains fading into the horizon, camels kneeling, rising, each step deliberate, rhythmic, hypnotic, serene. The caravan moves across the steppe plains of Khorasan, wide expanses stretching endlessly. Softly, imagine golden grass swaying under gentle winds, distant rivers reflecting sunlight, occasional clusters of reeds and tamarisk, wildlife moving quietly, deer grazing, foxes gliding between shrubs, eagles soaring high above, patient, eternal, mesmerizing. The path rises toward the desert margins, where sand meets cultivated land, oasis towns providing respite. Softly, imagine wells brimming with clear water, dates and melons hanging from palm trees, wheat and barley fields stretching across riverbanks, patient human ingenuity shaping life in harsh lands, hypnotic, calm. The caravan reaches Merv, one of the most important cities in Persian Khorasan. Softly, Imagine city walls stretching for miles, towers rising against the sky, bustling markets filled with silk from China, jade from Khotan, glassware from Persia, and spices from India, merchants calling softly, coins exchanging hands, patient, eternal, mesmerizing. Merv is also a center of learning and science. Soft, imagine scholars in shaded courtyards copying manuscripts, astronomers mapping the stars, physicians preparing herbal remedies, mathematicians recording calculations. Knowledge carried westward by every caravan. Soft, hypnotic, serene. The desert beyond is challenging. Shifting sands and sudden windstorms. Softly, imagine guides pointing out safe paths, camels kneeling at hidden wells, travelers adjusting packs, the rhythm of survival, step by step, mile by mile, deliberate, hypnotic. Flora along the desert edges includes tamarisk, reed clusters, and hardy shrubs. Softly notice gazelles, foxes, hares, and desert eagles, life persisting quietly, perfectly adapted to the harsh environment, patient, serene, mesmerizing. Further west, the caravan reaches Nishapur, famed for ceramics, turquoise, and scholarly pursuits. Softly, imagine artisans shaping clay into bowls, tiles, and vases, turquoise mined from nearby mountains, scholars teaching in small schools, knowledge of astronomy, medicine, and mathematics spreading along trade routes, hypnotic, eternal, calm. Rivers flowing from the mountains sustain the oases, the soft sound of water blending with the hum of the city. Softly, imagine dipping your hands into a cool stream, tasting fresh water, the smell of fertile soil and cultivated crops, vineyards, orchards, and wheat fields stretching gently across the plains, patient, serene, hypnotic. Meals along the caravan are simple but nourishing: flatbread, dried fruits, goat cheese, roasted grains. Softly, imagine savoring each bite, the flavors connecting you to centuries of silk route life. Step by step, mile by mile, calm, deliberate, infinite. The caravan rests at night, fires flickering softly, camels kneeling quietly, the desert sky opening. Softly, imagine the stars overhead. Orion, Pleiades, Cassiopeia, and the Milky Way guiding caravans as they have for centuries. Patient, eternal, mesmerizing, hypnotic. The path continues westward, the Persian plateau unfolding, desert sands giving way to fertile river valleys. Softly, imagine tracing every footprint, every camel hoof print, aligned with thousands of years of human trade, culture, and knowledge. Step by step, mile by mile, into calm, into rest, into dreams, into sleep. Softly, imagine leaving Nishapur behind. The city walls fade into the distance, the scent of turquoise and ceramics lingering softly, camels kneeling, rising, each step deliberate, rhythmic, hypnotic, serene. The caravan moves across the Persian plateau, a vast expanse of dry plains and gently rolling hills. Softly, imagine the sun warming the earth, wheat and barley waving softly in the breeze, irrigation channels shimmering in sunlight, orchards of pomegranates, figs, and grapes, patient, eternal, mesmerizing. Along the path, oasis towns provide respite, soft. Imagine Ray rising on the horizon, one of the oldest cities in Persia, dating back to at least 600 BCE, thriving as a trade and scholarly hub. Softly, imagine cobbled streets lined with mud brick houses, markets filled with silk, jade, glassware, spices, and fine textiles, merchants exchanging knowledge and news along with goods, hypnotic, serene calm. Artisans work quietly, soft. Imagine goldsmiths shaping intricate patterns, weavers producing rich Persian carpets, potters crafting delicate ceramics, scholars copying manuscripts and studying astronomy, knowledge traveling westward with every caravan, patient, eternal, mesmerizing. Further west, the caravan approaches Isfahan, nestled between the Zayanda River and the distant Zagros Mountains. Softly, imagine the city's elegant bridges arching over the river, gardens filled with roses and tulips, domed mosques catching the soft light of the sun, bazaars overflowing with silk, spices, ceramics, and precious metals, hypnotic, serene calm. The mountains loom ahead, the Zagros Range, jagged and formidable. Softly, imagine camels kneeling at the base of narrow passes, guides checking loads, adjusting straps, marking safe routes, knowledge accumulated over centuries of travel, patient, deliberate, hypnotic. The caravan traverses highland pastures, soft. Imagine flocks of sheep grazing, goats nibbling on sparse grasses, wolves and foxes watching quietly from distant hills, eagles circling above. Each creature perfectly adapted to the rugged terrain, patient, serene, mesmerizing. Rivers and streams feed lush valleys along the route, soft. Imagine dipping your hands into the cool water, tasting its clarity. The smell of fertile soil and crops, wheat, barley, grapes, and pomegranates stretching across gentle hills, patient human effort shaping the land, hypnotic, calm. Meals along the route are simple yet sustaining. Flatbread, dried fruits, roasted millet, cheese, and nuts. Softly, imagine tasting each bite, the flavors connecting you to centuries of caravan life. Step by step, mile by mile, calm, deliberate, infinite. The caravan continues westward, villages and fortresses appearing in the distance. Softly, Imagine the quiet clatter of carts, camels kneeling near wells, travelers sharing quiet conversation, patient, eternal, mesmerizing, hypnotic. At night, stars fill the sky, the Milky Way stretching overhead, Orion, Pleiades, and Cassiopeia shimmering softly, guiding caravans for centuries. Softly, imagine lying beneath the stars, fires flickering gently, camels kneeling quietly, the desert wind whispering across hills and rivers, calm, serene, hypnotic. The path continues west, the silk route threading between mountains and rivers, connecting civilizations. Softly, imagine tracing every footprint, every camel hoofprint, aligned with thousands of years of trade, culture, and human ingenuity, step by step, mile by mile, into calm, into rest, into dreams, into sleep. Softly, imagine leaving Isfahan behind. The city walls and bridges fade slowly into the warm light of the morning. Camels kneeling, rising, step by step, mile by mile, each movement deliberate, rhythmic, hypnotic, serene. The caravan enters the central Persian deserts, vast expanses of sand, gravel, and rocky outcrops. Softly, imagine the desert sun warming the earth, mirages flickering in the distance, dunes shifting gently with the breeze, patient, eternal, mesmerizing. Guides lead the caravan along ancient tracks, soft, imagine narrow paths carved by centuries of travelers, hidden wells marked subtly in the sands, safe passes through otherwise treacherous terrain, knowledge passed down for generations, hypnotic, calm. Oasis towns appear like jewels in the desert. Softly, imagine Yazd, famous for its wind towers, badgers, and desert architecture. Clay houses with domed roofs, narrow alleys keeping the heat at bay, qanats, underground irrigation channels, silently bringing water from distant mountains, patient human ingenuity shaping life in extreme conditions, mesmerizing, serene. Camels kneel beside date palms and small gardens, traders preparing goods for the next stretch, silk, jade, spices, carpets, and dried fruits carefully balanced. Softly, imagine adjusting a pack, feeling the gentle sway, aligning your rhythm with the caravan, step by step, mile by mile, calm, hypnotic. Further south, the caravan approaches Kerman, another desert hub. Softly, imagine bustling markets filled with silk, glassware, spices, and copperware, artisans carving turquoise mined nearby, carpets woven with intricate patterns, knowledge and culture flowing silently with every trade patient, eternal, mesmerizing. The deserts surrounding Kerman are harsh, soft. Imagine gravel plains, thorny shrubs, and resilient desert grasses. Flora includes tamarisk, wild pistachio, and acacia. Fauna includes foxes, gazelles, desert hares, and larks. Each life perfectly adapted to survive in sparse, arid conditions, patient, deliberate, hypnotic. Water is precious, soft. Imagine stopping at a hidden well, dipping your hands into cool, clear water, feeling the relief as camels kneel to drink. Ancient engineering making life possible. Cannons carrying water for miles, patient human ingenuity, mesmerizing, serene. Meals are simple but sustaining. Flatbread, dried figs and dates, roasted grains, cheese. Softly, imagine savoring each bite, the flavors connecting you to centuries of Silk Route survival. Grounding, hypnotic, step by step, mile by mile, calm, deliberate, infinite. The caravan navigates through small desert passes, soft. Imagine camels kneeling, hooves sinking lightly into sand, guides consulting maps, checking the sun's angle, pointing towards safe paths. The rhythm of travel steady, hypnotic, serene, patient. At night, the Persian desert opens to the stars, Orion, Pleiades, and Cassiopeia, with the Milky Way stretching across the sky, guiding travelers as they have for centuries. Softly, imagine lying beneath the heavens, fires flickering gently, camels resting quietly, wind whispering softly across dunes and rocky plains, calm, serene, hypnotic. The caravan continues westward, desert sands slowly giving way to fertile plains and mountain passes toward Kerman's highlands. Softly, imagine tracing every footprint, every camel hoofprint, aligned with thousands of years of trade, culture, and human ingenuity, step by step, mile by mile, into calm, into rest, into dreams, into sleep. Softly, imagine leaving the quiet oasis towns of Yazd and Kerman behind. The desert sands gradually give way to rolling foothills, the Zagros mountains rising in the distance, soft shadows stretching across valleys and plains, camels kneeling, rising, each step deliberate, rhythmic, hypnotic, serene. The caravan follows ancient trade tracks, worn into the earth by thousands of years of travelers, markers guiding the way, wells hidden among hardy shrubs, patient knowledge passed from generation to generation. Softly, imagine stopping at a spring, dipping your hands into cool water, the relief on camels' faces as they kneel to drink, life sustained quietly, gently, patiently, mesmerizing calm. Along the foothills, the air is fragrant, soft. Imagine wild pistachio and almond trees, pomegranate groves, wheat fields stretching gently across valleys, wildflowers peeking between rocks, soft bees humming, the delicate balance of desert and mountain flora, hypnotic, serene, patient. The caravan arrives at Shiraz, a city famed for poetry, gardens, wine in ancient times, and scholars. Softly, imagine walking among bazaars overflowing with silk, carpets, glass, spices, and medicinal herbs, the scent of rosewater and saffron blending softly with the warm mountain breeze. Merchants exchanging goods, but also ideas, art, literature, knowledge traveling westward, hypnotic, serene, calming. Shiraz is near the ancient city of Persepolis, once the ceremonial capital of the Achaemenid Empire, built around 518 BCE by Darius the Great. Softly, imagine towering stone columns carved with scenes of kings, soldiers, and tribute bearers. Massive staircases adorned with reliefs of animals, people, and processions. The craftsmanship astonishing, thousands of years old, hypnotic, eternal, mesmerizing. The caravan pauses near ruins, soft. Imagine touching the carved stone, imagining the voices of ancient Persians echoing faintly. The palace walls that once held banquets and royal courts, ceremonial stairways where representatives from Egypt, India, and Greece once brought tribute, patient human ingenuity and artistry, hypnotic, serene. Food along the route sustains travelers, soft. Imagine tasting flatbread, dried figs and dates, roasted grains, cheese, and the occasional sweetened pomegranate seeds. Flavors connecting you to centuries of survival and trade. Grounding, hypnotic, calm. The Zagros foothills are alive with fauna. Soft. Imagine wild goats and ibex navigating rocky cliffs. Desert foxes peering cautiously from shrubs. Eagles soaring above. Each species adapted perfectly to survive in the rugged terrain, patient, deliberate, mesmerizing. Caravan logistics continue with careful precision, soft. Imagine guides measuring the angle of the sun, reading the stars, using knowledge of the Milky Way, Orion, and Cassiopeia to navigate through mountain passes. Camels kneeling at night near wells and spring-fed streams, water, food, and rest meticulously calculated, hypnotic, serene. Along the route, scientific knowledge unfolds, irrigation systems channeling water from mountains to fields, stone terraces supporting orchards on slopes, early meteorological observation guiding planting and travel. Softly, imagine noticing terraces of wheat and barley, grapevines climbing gentle hillsides, the subtle hum of bees pollinating fruit trees, patient human ingenuity sustaining civilizations in harsh landscapes, mesmerizing, eternal. At night, the sky is a vast canvas, soft. Imagine stars reflected in calm rivers. Milky Way stretching across the heavens, guides using celestial navigation for centuries. Step by step, mile by mile, each caravan journey synchronized with the rhythm of the cosmos, hypnotic, serene, calm. The caravan presses westward, soft, imagine villages tucked along rivers, mud brick fortresses guarding trade routes, the rhythmic sound of hooves and the gentle sway of camels forming a meditative lullaby. Softly, every footprint, every camel hoofprint, aligned with thousands of years of silk route history, from Chang'an to Persia, step by step, mile by mile, into calm, into rest, into dreams, into sleep. Softly, imagine leaving the ancient ruins of Persepolis behind. The massive columns fade into the warm glow of morning, camels kneeling, rising, step by step, mile by mile, each movement deliberate, rhythmic, hypnotic, serene. The caravan follows the foothills of the Zagros Mountains. Soft, imagine the rocky slopes gradually flattening into rolling plains, rivers glimmering like ribbons of silver in the sunlight, oasis towns appearing like emeralds in the arid landscape, patient, eternal, mesmerizing. Along the route, fertile plains support wheat, barley, dates, pomegranates, and grapevines. Softly, imagine farmers tending their fields, irrigation canals channeling water from mountain streams, terraces carved into gentle slopes, the hum of bees pollinating fruit trees, patient human ingenuity shaping life in a challenging environment, hypnotic, serene. The caravan approaches Shat al-Arab, the confluence of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, guiding travelers toward Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization. Softly, imagine ancient marshes and reed beds stretching along the riverbanks, fishing boats gliding silently, herons and pelicans rising softly into the sky, life thriving along the river's patient, deliberate, mesmerizing. The city of Basra emerges, a hub for maritime trade and silk route connections. Softly, imagine bustling docks with dhows carrying goods from India, China, and Arabia, merchants trading spices, silk, pearls, and dates. The scent of frankincense and myrrh mixing with river air, hypnotic, serene calm. As the caravan moves northward along the Mesopotamian plains, the rivers guide the way. Soft, imagine ancient canals branching from the Tigris and Euphrates, supporting irrigation, agriculture, and settlements, wheat fields shimmering in the sun, date palms swaying gently, patient human planning sustaining civilizations for millennia, mesmerizing, eternal. The region is alive with fauna. Soft, imagine water buffalo grazing in marshlands, foxes slipping quietly along reeds, herons and kingfishers dipping into the rivers, and wolves prowling distant plains. Each species perfectly adapted to rivers, wetlands, and desert edges, patient, serene, hypnotic. Caravan logistics are critical here. Soft, imagine guides marking river crossings carefully, camels kneeling at safe shallow points, water jars filled at springs and wells, food packed and rationed, travelers adjusting their robes to the sun and wind, step by step, mile by mile calm, deliberate, infinite. Mesopotamian cities along the route are hubs of knowledge and culture. Soft. Imagine scribes writing on clay tablets, astronomers charting the stars, physicians preparing herbal remedies, mathematics, architecture, and literature thriving, knowledge flowing westward along the Silk Route, patient, eternal, mesmerizing. Meals along the way sustain both humans and animals. Soft. Imagine tasting flatbread, roasted grains, dried figs, dates, goat cheese, and honey, flavors carrying centuries of trade and local ingenuity. Grounding, hypnotic, serene. The caravan rests at night, soft. Imagine fires flickering gently against the riverbanks, camels kneeling quietly, stars shimmering above, the Milky Way stretching across the night sky, Orion, Pleiades, and Cassiopeia guiding travelers. Hypnotic, serene calm. The path continues westward soft. Imagine footprints, camel hoof prints, and wagon marks aligned with thousands of years of trade, cultural exchange, and human ingenuity. Step by step, mile by mile, into calm, into rest, into dreams, into sleep. Softly, imagine leaving the Tigris and Euphrates behind. The rivers glint in the early morning sun, reeds swaying gently, marshes fading slowly, camels kneeling, rising, step by step, mile by mile, rhythmic, deliberate, hypnotic, serene. The caravan follows ancient trade routes through the Fertile Crescent, soft. Imagine rolling plains, olive groves, wheat and barley fields stretching across hills of vineyards glinting in sunlight, shepherds tending flocks of sheep and goats, patient, eternal, mesmerizing. Villages appear along the way, clay and stone houses with flat roofs, smoke curling softly from chimneys, children running along narrow lanes, merchants preparing goods, soft. Imagine walking among them, absorbing their stories, the faint scent of bread and spices, hypnotic, serene calm. The caravan approaches Aleppo, a major silk route hub. Softly, imagine massive city walls rising, bazaars overflowing with silk, spices, glassware, and paper from China, artisans carving intricate woodwork, scholars teaching mathematics and astronomy, knowledge traveling westward, patient, mesmerizing, eternal. The route winds west toward Antioch and the Taurus Mountains. Soft. Imagine camels kneeling at the base of steep passes, guides consulting ancient maps and the stars, adjusting the caravan's pace. Knowledge passed down for centuries, hypnotic, calm. Flora and fauna of this region, soft. Imagine olive trees, fig trees, wheat fields, mountain shrubs, gazelles and foxes navigating rocky slopes, eagles and vultures soaring high, each creature perfectly adapted, patient, serene, mesmerizing. The caravan crosses mountain passes, soft. Imagine hearing the distant rumble of a rockfall, feeling the gentle sway of camels on steep paths, snowmelt feeding streams, irrigation channels supporting small farms, the rhythm of survival step by step, mile by mile, hypnotic, calm. Along the way, travelers experience scientific marvels. Soft, notice ancient aqueducts carrying water over hills, monasteries where scholars record astronomical observations, cities using sophisticated urban planning to sustain trade and life, patient human ingenuity, mesmerizing, eternal. At night, the stars dominate the sky, soft. Orion, Pleiades, Cassiopeia, and the Milky Way guiding caravans. Faint lights of distant towns, twinkling of fires flickering near resting camels. The wind whispering over hills, calm, serene, hypnotic. Meals sustain humans and animals. Soft. Imagine flatbread, dried fruits, roasted grains, cheese, olives, flavors carrying centuries of silk route knowledge. Grounding, hypnotic, step by step, mile by mile, calm, deliberate, infinite. The path continues westward, soft. Imagine every footprint, camel hoof print, and wagon mark aligned with millennia of trade, cultural exchange, and scientific knowledge. Step by step, mile by mile, into calm, into rest, into dreams, into sleep. Softly, imagine leaving the Fertile Crescent behind. The rivers fade gently into the morning haze, plains giving way to rolling hills, camels kneeling, rising, step by step, mile by mile, rhythmic, deliberate, hypnotic, serene. The caravan enters Anatolia, a land of mountains, valleys, and dense forests. Softly, imagine the Pontic and Taurus mountains rising in the distance, their peaks kissed by the morning sun, snow lingering on high ridges, rivers cascading into fertile valleys below, patient, eternal, mesmerizing. Along the route, caravanserais appear like silent sentinels. Softly, imagine stopping at a stone courtyard, camels kneeling patiently, merchants unloading silk, spices, glass, and paper, fires flickering. The smell of roasting grains and flatbread drifting softly. Travelers sharing stories, news, and knowledge, hypnotic, serene, calm. The towns of Anatolia thrive on trade and culture. Soft. Imagine Kayseri, Shivas, and Ankara bustling with bazaars, artisans carving intricate wood and stone, potters shaping clay, weavers producing colorful textiles, scholars teaching astronomy, medicine, and mathematics, knowledge flowing westward along the Silk Route, patient, mesmerizing, eternal. The landscape is alive with flora and fauna. Soft. Imagine oak and pine forests, wildflowers in hidden valleys, and grapevines climbing rocky slopes, gazelles bounding across plains, foxes slipping silently through underbrush, golden eagles and vultures circling above. Each species perfectly adapted, patient, serene, mesmerizing. The caravan navigates mountain passes carefully, soft. Imagine the rhythmic sway of camels, guides checking the sun and stars, adjusting loads for steep ascents, centuries of route knowledge encoded in their steps. Step by step, mile by mile, hypnotic, calm. Meals are simple yet sustaining, soft. Imagine tasting flatbread, roasted grains, dried figs, cheese, olives, and pomegranate seeds. Each bite connecting you to centuries of trade, survival, and cultural exchange. Grounding, hypnotic, serene. As the caravan continues westward, Byzantine fortresses appear on hills, soft. Imagine towers and walls rising from rocky outcrops, guards watching quietly, stone bridges spanning rushing rivers, roads paved with stones worn smooth by centuries of travelers, patient human ingenuity guiding safe passage, mesmerizing, eternal. At night, the stars dominate the sky. Soft, the Milky Way stretches overhead. Orion, Pleiades, and Cassiopeia shimmering softly, guiding caravans as they have for millennia. Fires flickering gently near resting camels. The wind whispering through mountain passes. Calm, serene, hypnotic. Scientific marvels abound along the route, soft. Imagine water wheels turning quietly near streams, ancient stone aqueducts carrying water to villages, and scholars observing celestial movements from hilltop observatories. Knowledge of astronomy, mathematics, and engineering flowing quietly along trade routes, patient, eternal, mesmerizing. The path continues steadily toward Constantinople, the ultimate western hub of the Silk Route, soft. Imagine every footprint, camel hoofprint, and wagon mark aligned with thousands of years of trade, culture, and human ingenuity. Step by step, mile by mile, into calm, into rest, into dreams, into sleep. Softly, imagine the caravan descending from the Anatolian mountains. The valleys widen, rivers meander slowly. The air grows warmer, camels kneeling, rising, step by step, mile by mile, rhythmic, deliberate, hypnotic, serene. The walls of Constantinople rise in the distance, massive, imposing, yet graceful under the soft glow of morning. Soft. Imagine towers stretching skyward, battlements crowned with flags swaying gently, gates opening slowly for travelers and merchants, patient, eternal, mesmerizing. Merchants and guides prepare for entry, soft. Imagine adjusting packs, camels kneeling, carrying silk, spices, jade, glass, carpets, dried fruits, goods that have traveled thousands of miles across deserts, mountains, and plains. Step by step, mile by mile, hypnotic, serene, calm. The city itself is alive, soft. Imagine streets paved with large stones, lined with marble columns, mosaic-tiled buildings, and domed basilicas. The scent of incense, spices, and baked bread drifting through narrow alleys, markets bustling with traders from Arabia, Persia, India, and beyond, patient, mesmerizing, eternal. Along the Grand Bazaar, artisans work quietly soft. Imagine goldsmiths hammering delicate patterns, potters spinning clay into vessels for wine and olive oil, silk weavers creating dazzling textiles, merchants exchanging stories and ideas as well as goods, hypnotic, serene calm. Constantinople is also a hub of science, astronomy, and learning. Soft. Imagine scholars studying the stars atop towers, recording observations of the Pleiades, Orion, and Milky Way, merchants consulting maps and sea charts for trade with Egypt, the Levant, and the Mediterranean. Mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and navigation flowing westward along the Silk Route, patient, eternal, mesmerizing. The port is a marvel of maritime activity. Soft, imagine dhows and galleys gliding into the harbor, sailors unloading silk, spices, pearls, glassware, and paper. The gentle slap of waves against the hull, seagulls circling above. Each ship a vessel of culture and knowledge, connecting east and west, hypnotic, serene, calm. The city's architecture is a wonder. Soft. Imagine Hagia Sophia's vast dome catching the sunlight, mosaics glinting gold and deep blue, aqueducts channeling water to fountains and baths, domed cisterns reflecting the sky above, streets alive with merchants, scholars, and travelers, patient human ingenuity creating a living city of trade, culture, and science, mesmerizing, eternal. Meals and trade in the city are rich. Soft. Imagine tasting flatbreads, olives, cheeses, spiced meats, dried fruits, figs, dates, and wine flavors mingling with aromas of freshly baked bread and roasting nuts. Grounding, hypnotic, step by step, mile by mile, calm, deliberate, infinite. Outside the city, the landscape of Thrace and the Balkans stretches softly. Rolling plains, rivers, and forests, wild boars and deer moving quietly through underbrush, birds gliding overhead. The caravan preparing for the next leg westward toward the Adriatic. Soft. Imagine every footstep, every camel hoofprint echoing the knowledge of thousands of traders before, hypnotic, serene, calm. At night, Constantinople's lights flicker softly along the Golden Horn, fires from ships and city lamps reflecting in the water. The Milky Way arching across the sky, Orion, Cassiopeia, and Pleiades guiding travelers and sailors. Soft. Imagine resting near the harbor, camels kneeling, gentle waves lapping, wind carrying scents of distant lands, calm, serene, hypnotic. The Silk Route has reached its great western hub. Soft. Imagine the city as a living bridge between continents, a melting pot of cultures, languages, goods, and knowledge. Step by step, mile by mile, into calm, into rest, into dreams, into sleep. Softly, imagine leaving Constantinople's golden horn behind. The city's massive walls fade into the morning haze, camels kneeling, rising, the rhythmic sway of the caravan replaced now by the gentle rocking of dhows and galleys on the Bosporus. Step by step, mile by mile, hypnotic, serene. The Black Sea stretches out softly, waves shimmering in the early sunlight, gulls circling overhead, fish glinting beneath the surface. Soft. Imagine sailors adjusting sails, pulling ropes, the smell of salt water mixing with spices and silk on board, patient, mesmerizing calm. As the ships navigate the Bosporus Strait, trading vessels from Persia, India, and Arabia converge, soft. Imagine dhows laden with silk, spices, jade, glassware, precious stones, and paper, crews from distant lands speaking in varied tongues. Knowledge, news, and stories carried across continents. Hypnotic, serene, eternal. The caravan turnship carries travelers along the Aegean and Ionian coasts. Soft. Imagine rugged cliffs, hidden coves, and small fishing villages. Terraced vineyards cling to hillsides, olive groves stretching across valleys. The aroma of wild herbs drifting on warm breezes, patient human adaptation shaping the land, mesmerizing calm. Ports appear at every turn, soft. Imagine Thessaloniki, Dubrovnik, and Venice bustling with traders. Quays crowded with goods being loaded and unloaded, merchants negotiating silk from Chang'an, spices from India, glass from Persia. Every coin exchanged a story of human ingenuity and centuries of trade. Hypnotic, serene, calm. In Alexandria, Egypt beckons, soft. Imagine the harbor filled with dhows and feluccas, papyrus scrolls, perfumes, dates, incense, and coins being traded. The scent of frankincense mingling with the salty air. Sailors and merchants sharing knowledge of astronomy, navigation, and medicine, patient, eternal, mesmerizing. Along the Mediterranean, flora and fauna abound, soft. Imagine olive trees, fig groves, pomegranate gardens, wild herbs, and grapevines. Dolphins leaping alongside ships, sea turtles gliding beneath the surface, migratory birds following the coastline. The rhythm of life perfectly aligned with human movement, patient, serene, hypnotic. Meals aboard ships are simple but sustaining, soft. Imagine flatbreads, dried figs, olives, roasted grains, cheese, fish, and dates. The taste grounding you, connecting east and west through the silk route. Step by step, mile by mile, calm, deliberate, infinite. The Mediterranean skies are a navigator's guide, soft. Orion, Pleiades, Cassiopeia, and the Milky Way stretching across the night. Sailors charting positions, calculating distances, observing seasonal winds. The same stars guiding traders for thousands of years, hypnotic, serene, eternal. Shipboard life is meticulous, soft. Imagine ropes coiled, sails mended, cargo carefully secured, and camels resting in the cool hold near their handlers. Knowledge of tides, wind, and currents carefully passed down. Each journey measured and precise. Step by step, mile by mile, hypnotic, calm. As the caravan reaches European ports, soft. Imagine every footprint, every hoofprint, every ship's wake aligning with thousands of years of Silk Route trade, culture, and knowledge, connecting Asia with Europe, step by step, mile by mile, into calm, into rest, into dreams, into sleep. Softly, imagine the caravan finally leaving the Mediterranean coastline behind. Rolling hills rise gently, vineyards stretching across valleys, olive groves lining stone walls, small streams glimmering under the soft sunlight, camels kneeling, rising, step by step, mile by mile, hypnotic, serene, calm. The route passes through northern Italy, soft. Imagine Verona, Padua, and Vicenza, bustling market towns of merchants unloading silk, spices, glassware, and paper from ships, local artisans shaping gold, silver, and ceramics. The hum of conversation, haggling, and laughter drifting through narrow streets, patient, mesmerizing, eternal. Along the way, fortified towns and castles stand guard over the trade routes. Soft, imagine towers perched on hills, stone bridges spanning gentle rivers, watchtowers keeping watch over travelers and caravans. Every stone carved by hand centuries ago. Patient human ingenuity protecting trade and knowledge. Hypnotic, serene, calm. The flora of this region is lush, soft. Imagine olive trees, grapevines, wildflowers, and chestnut forests. Deer bounding through underbrush. Foxes moving quietly among the hills. Birds gliding above. Each species perfectly adapted, patient, eternal, mesmerizing. Venice emerges softly on the horizon. Imagine the shimmering lagoon reflecting the early morning sun. Canals winding between pale stone buildings. Gondolas gliding silently. The scent of sea salt mixing with spices, wine, and freshly baked bread. Hypnotic, serene, calm. The city is a marvel of engineering and human ingenuity. Soft. Imagine stone bridges spanning canals, piazzas filled with merchants, and towering basilicas adorned with mosaics and frescoes, water wheels and aqueducts channeling fresh water. Ships loaded with silks from the east, spices from Arabia, and glassware from Persia. Step by step, mile by mile, mesmerizing calm. Markets bustle, soft. Imagine traders exchanging goods, coins clinking, papers being carefully unrolled. Venice as a hub connecting Asia, Africa, and Europe. Knowledge of astronomy, mathematics, and navigation passing silently with every caravan, ship, and merchant. Hypnotic, serene, eternal. Meals in the city are diverse, soft. Imagine tasting fresh bread, olives, cheeses, spiced meats, dried fruits, figs, dates, and wines from vineyards across Europe and the Mediterranean, flavors mingling with stories carried from thousands of miles away. Grounding. Step by step, mile by mile calm, deliberate, infinite. At night, the lagoon glimmers, fires from ships and city lamps reflecting in the water. Stars shining above, Orion, Pleiades, Cassiopeia, and the Milky Way guiding sailors and caravans alike. Soft. Imagine resting near the canals. Gondolas rocking gently. The distant clatter of coins, the whisper of trade, the soft scent of flowers from nearby gardens. Hypnotic, serene calm. Every footprint, every camel hoof print, every ship's wake, soft. Imagine them aligned with thousands of years of trade, cultural exchange, and human ingenuity, connecting the Silk Route from Chang'an to the Adriatic, step by step, mile by mile, into calm, into rest, into dreams, into sleep. Softly, imagine leaving the shimmering canals of Venice behind. The lagoon recedes into gentle mists, camels kneeling, rising, carts creaking softly as they follow stone-paved roads. Step by step, mile by mile, rhythmic, deliberate, hypnotic, serene. The caravan moves inland along the Valley. Soft, imagine golden fields of wheat swaying gently, vineyards stretching across fertile plains, farmers tending their lands. Oxen pulling plows, the distant hum of villages patient, eternal, mesmerizing. Markets in Padua, Verona, and Mantua bustle softly. Imagine traders unloading silks, spices, glassware, and paper, local artisans shaping metal, clay, and wooden knowledge flowing silently from east to west, step by step, mile by mile, hypnotic, calm. As the caravan approaches the Alps, the terrain shifts dramatically, soft. Imagine rocky peaks rising, snow-capped summits glinting in sunlight, glaciers slowly melting into alpine rivers, narrow passes winding between cliffs, camels carefully navigating the paths, guides checking maps and consulting the stars, patient human ingenuity aligning with nature, mesmerizing, serene. The flora changes soft. Imagine alpine meadows dotted with wildflowers, pines, firs, and larches stretching upward, berries ripening quietly, mountain herbs filling the air with subtle fragrance, marmots and chamois moving cautiously among rocks, eagles soaring high above, patient, eternal, hypnotic. Caravan logistics in the mountains are meticulous, soft. Imagine loading packs carefully, securing goods, resting at small inns or stone shelters. Rivers crossed via bridges built centuries ago. Travelers and animals adapting to altitude and weather. Step by step, mile by mile, calm, deliberate, infinite. Along the alpine passes, historical marvels appear, soft. Imagine Roman roads and medieval fortresses protecting trade routes. Stone bridges spanning rushing rivers, watchtowers signaling travelers ahead, knowledge of engineering, construction, and defense quietly guiding safe passage, hypnotic, serene, eternal. Meals sustain travelers and animals alike, soft. Imagine tasting flatbreads, cheeses, roasted grains, dried fruits, local herbs, smoked meats, and fresh alpine water. Each bite connecting the caravan to centuries of survival, trade, and culture, grounding, hypnotic, serene. Descending into the Danube and Rhine corridors, the landscape opens into vast plains, soft. Imagine rivers glinting like silver threads, forests stretching toward the horizon. Castles and fortified towns dotting the landscape, merchants preparing goods for further trade, patient human planning guiding movement, mesmerizing calm. Flora and fauna flourish along the rivers, soft. Imagine oak, beech, and chestnut forests, wildflowers and meadows, deer, foxes, wild boar, swans and herons gliding over riverbanks, each creature perfectly adapted, patient, eternal, hypnotic. At night, the stars guide travelers, Orion, Pleiades, Cassiopeia, and the Milky Way overhead. Travelers resting near rivers and inns, camels kneeling, gentle river sounds blending with distant human activity. Soft, imagine drifting into calm, serene sleep as the path continues westward. Step by step, mile by mile, into dreams, into rest. The Silk Route carries goods, knowledge, and culture silently across continents. Soft. Imagine the thousands of footsteps, hoof prints, and wagon marks connecting Asia to Europe. Every step a story, every mile a legacy, hypnotic, serene, infinite. Softly, imagine leaving the alpine passes behind. The mountains recede. Rolling hills and fertile river valleys stretch softly before you. Camels kneeling. Rising, carts creaking. Step by step, mile by mile, rhythmic, deliberate, hypnotic, serene. The caravan follows the Rhine corridor, soft. Imagine the river glimmering like silver in the morning sun. Reeds swaying gently along the banks. Small fishing villages nestled in meadows, bridges spanning the river. Centuries-old, patient human ingenuity guiding every traveler, mesmerizing calm. Towns appear at regular intervals, soft. Imagine Cologne, Mainz, and Strasbourg, bustling with markets, merchants unloading silk from Venice, spices from the east, glassware from Persia, local craftspeople shaping iron, wood, and textiles, knowledge flowing silently from Asia through generations of traders, hypnotic, serene, calm. Along the rivers and valleys, castles and fortresses rise, soft. Imagine stone walls crowned with towers, watchmen signaling from high points. Keep storing grains, coins, and goods, medieval engineering protecting trade routes, patient, mesmerizing, eternal. The landscape is alive with flora and fauna. Soft. Imagine oak and beech forests, wildflowers, vineyards on gentle slopes, and orchards of apples, cherries, and plums. Deer grazing quietly, foxes moving stealthily, swans and herons gliding on the rivers. Each species perfectly adapted, patient, serene, hypnotic. Caravan logistics along the Rhine are precise, soft. Imagine guiding camels along cobbled streets, unloading goods for local markets, rest stops at inns and monasteries, rivers navigated with ferries and rafts when necessary. Step by step, mile by mile, calm, deliberate, infinite. Markets hum with activity, soft. Imagine coins clinking, merchants exchanging stories, artisans shaping goods, paper from China being copied in monasteries, spices being weighed carefully, silk shimmering in the morning sun. Knowledge, culture, and science flowing with every transaction. Hypnotic, serene, eternal. Meals sustain humans and animals, soft. Imagine tasting bread, cheese, dried fruits, roasted grains, wine from local vineyards, smoked meats, and olives. Each bite connecting travelers to centuries of trade and cultural exchange. Grounding. Step by step, mile by mile, calm, deliberate, infinite. At night, the stars guide travelers, soft. Orion, Pleiades, Cassiopeia, and the Milky Way stretching above. The river reflecting starlight, the soft murmur of flowing water blending with distant voices and the gentle sway of resting camels. Hypnotic, serene, calm. Every footprint, every camel hoofprint, every wagon will mark soft. Imagine them aligning with thousands of years of trade and cultural exchange. From Chang'an to the Rhine, every step a legacy, every mile a story. Step by step, mile by mile, into calm, into rest, into dreams, into sleep. Softly, imagine leaving the Rhine behind. Rolling plains stretch softly toward gentle hills, rivers glinting in sunlight, camels kneeling, rising, carts creaking softly. Step by step, mile by mile, rhythmic, deliberate, hypnotic, serene. The caravan follows the Loire River Valley, soft. Imagine the river winding like a silver ribbon, meadows dotted with wildflowers, castles rising on hills, stone bridges spanning gentle streams, inns and villages offering rest, patient human ingenuity guiding travelers safely, mesmerizing calm. Markets appear in towns along the way, soft. Imagine Tours, Orleans, and Blois bustling with merchants. Silk from Venice shimmering in sunlight. Spices from Arabia mingling with local herbs. Glassware from Persia catching the light. Coins exchanged. Stories shared. Knowledge passed silently. Hypnotic, serene, calm. The landscape flourishes with flora and fauna. Soft. Imagine oak and chestnut forests, vineyards and lavender fields. Deer and foxes moving quietly through underbrush. Storks nesting on rooftops, herons gliding along riverbanks. Each species perfectly adapted, patient, eternal, mesmerizing. As the caravan approaches the Rhone River corridor, mountains and valleys guide the path, soft. Imagine the Massif Central and the Alps' lower slopes, rivers glimmering. Small towns and fortresses dotting hillsides, bridges spanning swift currents, watchtowers signaling traders. Step by step, mile by mile, hypnotic, calm. Along the Rhone, merchants and sailors coordinate trade, soft. Imagine boats carrying silk, spices, paper, glass, and wine downstream to Marseille. Camels and wagons delivering inland goods, artisans shaping metal, wood, and textiles, knowledge and culture moving westward, silently patient, mesmerizing, eternal. Meals nourish travelers and animals, soft. Imagine tasting bread, cheeses like Comte and Roquefort, roasted grains, dried fruits, olives, figs, and wine from local vineyards, flavors mingling with the scent of riverside herbs and the aroma of wood-fired ovens. Grounding. Step by step, mile by mile, calm, deliberate, infinite. The city of Marseille appears softly on the horizon. Imagine the Mediterranean shimmering under the afternoon sun. The port alive with dhows, galleys and cargo ships, spices, silk, and glass being unloaded and stored, traders from Africa, the Middle East, and Europe exchanging stories and knowledge, hypnotic, serene calm. The harbor is alive with life, soft. Imagine seagulls gliding over water, the smell of salt and exotic spices mingling, merchants calling out offers, and sailors preparing ships for the next journey. Every action part of a centuries-old rhythm of trade and cultural exchange. Step by step, mile by mile, mesmerizing calm. At night, stars guide travelers and sailors alike. Soft. Orion, Pleiades, Cassiopeia, and the Milky Way shimmering above the harbor, reflections dancing on calm water. Camels resting near carts, sailors securing cargo, gentle waves lapping against the docks. Soft. Imagine drifting into calm. Serene sleep as the journey continues westward. Step by step, mile by mile, into dreams, into rest. Every footprint, every camel hoof print, every ship's wake, soft. Imagine them aligned with thousands of years of trade, knowledge, and cultural exchange, connecting Chang'an to Marseille. Every step a story, every mile a legacy. Step by step, mile by mile, into calm, into rest, into dreams, into sleep. Softly, imagine leaving the Rhone corridor behind. The caravan moves westward across the Pyrenees. Soft. Imagine rugged mountains rising, their peaks dusted with snow, narrow passes winding through valleys, rivers glimmering like silver, camels kneeling, rising, step by step, mile by mile, rhythmic, deliberate, hypnotic, serene. Crossing into northern Spain, soft, imagine rolling hills and fertile plains, olive groves and vineyards stretching along riverbanks, small villages with clay-tiled roofs, chimneys sending smoke gently into the sky, markets alive with traders unloading silk, spices, glass, and coins, artisans crafting metals, pottery, and textiles, patient, mesmerizing calm. The caravan reaches the Ebro River corridor, soft. Imagine swans gliding on calm waters, a heron stalking fish along shallow banks, oak and cork forests dotting gentle hills, deer moving quietly, foxes slipping through underbrush, wild herbs and lavender filling the air. Step by step, mile by mile, hypnotic, serene. Towns along the route appear, soft. Imagine Zaragoza, Lida, and Valencia. Bustling marketplaces. Merchants haggling over silk, saffron, alum, and glassware. Coins clinking, scrolls of knowledge being exchanged, Arabic numerals and mathematical knowledge quietly passing into Europe from the East, patient human ingenuity connecting continents, mesmerizing, eternal. In southern Spain, imagine the influence of Al-Andalus, soft, intricate architecture with horseshoe arches and geometric tiles. Lush gardens irrigated with water from aqueducts and canets, fountains trickling gently. Aromatic flowers like jasmine, rose, and orange blossom perfuming the air, hypnotic, serene, calm. The caravan approaches the Mediterranean port of Barcelona. Soft, ships and galleys docked at the harbor. Goods unloaded. Silk from the east, spices from Arabia, glassware from Persia, and precious stones. Merchants exchanging stories, knowledge, and letters. Step by step, mile by mile, mesmerizing calm. Maritime life is alive, soft. Imagine seagulls circling overhead, the scent of salt mixing with saffron and exotic spices. Sailors securing cargo, adjusting sails, knowledge of tides, winds, and navigation guiding ships across the Mediterranean, patient, eternal, hypnotic. Meals nourish the caravan and sailors, soft. Imagine tasting bread, cheeses like manchego, roasted almonds, figs, olives, citrus fruits, and wine from Iberian vineyards, flavors mingling with the aroma of coastal herbs and the salty air, grounding. Step by step, mile by mile, calm, deliberate, infinite. As night falls, the stars guide travelers, soft. Orion, Pleiades, Cassiopeia, and the Milky Way stretching above the Iberian coast, reflections dancing on the Mediterranean, camels resting near carts, sailors securing cargo, gentle waves lapping, soft. Imagine drifting into calm, serene sleep, step by step, mile by mile, into dreams, into rest. Every footprint, every camel hoofprint, every ship's wake, soft. Imagine them aligned with thousands of years of trade, knowledge, and culture, linking Chang'an to the Iberian Peninsula. Every step a story, every mile a legacy. Step by step, mile by mile, into calm, into rest, into dreams, into sleep. Softly, imagine leaving the Iberian Mediterranean coast behind. Rolling hills stretch softly toward the Atlantic, the smell of salt carried on the ocean breeze. Camels kneeling, rising, carts creaking gently. Step by step, mile by mile, rhythmic, deliberate, hypnotic, serene. The caravan moves along the Iberian Peninsula's western plains. Soft. Imagine olive groves, cork forests, and vineyards, rivers glinting like silver. Small villages with stone houses and clay-tiled roofs. Markets bustling with traders, patient, eternal, mesmerizing. Towns like Lisbon, Porto, and Coimbra appear softly on the horizon. Imagine merchants unloading silk from Venice, spices from Arabia, paper and glass from the East, coins exchanged carefully, artisans shaping metal, wood, and textiles, knowledge flowing silently across generations, hypnotic, serene calm. The Atlantic coastline is dramatic, soft. Imagine cliffs rising above crashing waves, sandy beaches stretching beneath, seabirds gliding in the breeze, the smell of salt and wet stone mingling with the aroma of spices and herbs. Step by step, mile by mile, hypnotic, serene. Maritime trade flourishes here, soft. Imagine ships docked in Lisbon and Porto, dhows and galleys carrying silk, spices, glassware, and precious stones from across the Mediterranean. Sailors securing cargo, adjusting sails, knowledge of tides, winds, and celestial navigation guiding the journey, patient, eternal, mesmerizing. Meals sustain travelers and sailors, soft. Imagine tasting bread, cheeses, roasted almonds, figs, olives, fresh seafood, and wines from local vineyards, flavors mingling with the aroma of the Atlantic breeze. Grounding. Step by step, mile by mile calm, deliberate, infinite. The flora and fauna of Western Iberia are abundant, soft. Imagine olive trees, cork oaks, pine forests, lavender fields, deer grazing quietly, foxes slipping through underbrush, storks nesting on rooftops, herons and egrets along riverbanks, dolphins leaping alongside ships. Step by step, mile by mile, hypnotic, serene, calm. At night, the stars guide travelers and sailors alike. Orion, Pleiades, Cassiopeia, and the Milky Way stretching across the dark sky. The Atlantic reflecting starlight, gentle waves lapping against docks. Camels resting near carts, sailors preparing for the next voyage, soft. Imagine drifting into calm, serene sleep, step by step, mile by mile, into dreams, into rest. Every footprint, every camel hoofprint, every ship's wake, soft. Imagine them aligned with thousands of years of trade, knowledge, and cultural exchange, connecting Chang'an to the Atlantic. Every step a story, every mile a legacy. Step by step, mile by mile, into calm, into rest, into dreams, into sleep. Softly, imagine leaving the Atlantic coast of Portugal behind. The caravan moves northward along rivers and trade routes. Soft, imagine rolling plains, forests stretching as far as the eye can see. Camels kneeling, rising carts creaking gently. Step by step, mile by mile, rhythmic, deliberate, hypnotic, serene. The journey passes through France's northern regions. Soft, imagine the Seine and Loire rivers glimmering in the morning light. Small towns with timber-framed houses, markets bustling with silk from Venice, spices from the east, paper and coins traveling inland, artisans shaping wood, metal and textiles, knowledge passing silently from east to west, patient, mesmerizing calm. Along the way, medieval castles and fortified towns rise softly. Imagine Château de Vincennes, Rouen and Dijon, stone walls and watchtowers protecting trade, bridges spanning rivers, roads paved with cobblestones guiding caravans and travelers safely. Step by step, mile by mile, hypnotic, serene. The flora and fauna of northern Europe flourish soft. Imagine oak and beech forests, meadows dotted with wildflowers, hedgerows filled with berries, deer grazing quietly, foxes slipping through underbrush, storks nesting on rooftops, herons and swans gliding on rivers. Every creature perfectly adapted, patient, eternal, mesmerizing. The caravan reaches the Low Countries, modern-day Belgium, Netherlands, and Luxembourg. Soft. Imagine bustling ports and market towns, Antwerp, Bruges, and Ghent alive with trade merchants exchanging silk, spices, paper, glass, and coins, canals reflecting the morning sun. Knowledge and culture flowing silently. Step by step, mile by mile, hypnotic, calm. Maritime trade flourishes here, soft. Imagine ships navigating rivers and canals, dhows and galleys carrying goods from the Mediterranean and Atlantic, sailors adjusting sails and coordinating cargo, knowledge of tides, winds, and navigation guiding trade, patient, eternal, mesmerizing. Meals nourish travelers and merchants, soft. Imagine tasting bread, cheeses like Gouda and Brie, roasted grains, dried fruits, olives, wine, and freshwater fish from rivers, flavors mingling with scents of forests and fields. Grounding. Step by step, mile by mile, calm, deliberate, infinite. In the British Isles, the caravan's influence continues softly. Imagine traders and merchants arriving at London, Bristol, and Dublin, goods from the east displayed in markets. Spices, silk, glassware, and paper blending with local textiles, honey, and grains, knowledge of astronomy, medicine, and mathematics quietly spreading. Step by step, mile by mile, mesmerizing calm. At night, stars guide travelers, soft. Orion, Pleiades, Cassiopeia, and the Milky Way overhead. The rivers and coastlines reflecting starlight, camels resting near carts, sailors securing cargo, gentle waves and soft wind lapping soft. Imagine drifting into calm, serene sleep, step by step, mile by mile, into dreams, into rest. Every footprint, every camel hoof print, every wagon wheel and ship wake, soft. Imagine them aligned with thousands of years of trade, knowledge, and cultural exchange, connecting Chang'an to northern Europe. Every step a story, every mile a legacy. Step by step, mile by mile, into calm, into rest, into dreams, into sleep. Softly, imagine the caravan coming to its final rest. The mountains, deserts, rivers, and cities of the Silk Route stretching behind you, from Chang'an in the east, across the deserts of Central Asia, the oases of Persia, the Mediterranean ports, and into Europe. Every step, every mile, a story etched into time, rhythmic, calm, serene. Softly, feel your body soften, your mind floating, carried gently along the paths once traveled by traders, scholars, and travelers. Step by step, mile by mile, patient, eternal, mesmerizing. Imagine the markets of Chang'an, softly alive in memory. Silks, spices, jade, and ceramics. The distant clatter of carts fading into quiet. Every detail now a gentle echo. Step by step, mile by mile, calm, serene. The oases and deserts of Central Asia appear, palms swaying, camels kneeling, water reflecting the starlight. The sun rising over sand dunes and mountains. Step by step, mile by mile, hypnotic, patient, infinite. The great cities of Persia and Arabia softly come into view. Baghdad's bustling markets, caravanserais offering rest and knowledge. The scent of spices filling the air, astronomers and mathematicians quietly observing stars and recording discoveries. Step by step, mile by mile, calm, mesmerizing. Crossing into the Mediterranean, imagine Marseille, Barcelona, and Lisbon. Ships rocking softly in gentle waves. Goods from the east, spices, silk, glass, and precious stones being carefully moved. Every harbor alive with trade, culture, and stories. Step by step, mile by mile, serene, hypnotic. In Northern Europe, picture Bruges, Antwerp, London, and Dublin, canals and rivers reflecting starlight, marketplaces quietly alive. The knowledge, goods, and culture of the Silk Route spreading to distant lands. Step by step, mile by mile, patient, eternal, calm. Softly drift through all the wisdom, science, flora, fauna, and culture carried across continents. Astronomy, mathematics, medicine, papermaking, navigation, silk, spices, plants and animals, architecture and craftsmanship. Step by step, mile by mile, hypnotic, serene. And now, let all these images blend into a gentle haze. The cities, rivers, deserts, mountains, markets, inns, ports, animals and traders. Every moment folding into the slow, steady rhythm of your breath, step by step, mile by mile, into calm, into peace, into sleep. Softly, imagine yourself resting beneath a tree in Portugal, the Atlantic breeze brushing gently, or beside a quiet river in northern Europe, sunlight glimmering softly on water, camels kneeling, ships drifting silently. Every sound softened, every movement slow, step by step, mile by mile, patient, eternal. And as our journey along the Silk Route draws to a gentle close, feel your body soften, your mind drift. As you drift towards sleep, let your thoughts move slowly, like caravans across the golden sands. There is no need to hold on to every detail, only the feeling of vast landscapes, of desert winds, of ancient cities resting quietly under starlit skies. The markets of Chang'an, the bustling streets of Samarkand, the hidden oases and snow-capped mountains, all are part of this gentle, endless story. If you've enjoyed this soft voyage along the Silk Route, consider liking and subscribing, or leaving a quiet thought in the comments. It helps other travelers find their way here, one calm mind at a time. But for now, let the day settle behind you. Let your breathing slow, steady, effortless. Imagine yourself drifting weightlessly, like a trader resting beneath palm trees in Dunhuang, or a camel moving silently across the desert. Carried along the slow, eternal rhythm of the route. Sleep well, dream deeply, and may your night be as peaceful as the quietest oasis along the ancient Silk Route. Until we meet again on the next journey. Good night.